Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Clover. We have some exciting new chats today. My first guest has had her struggles with neurodiversity with her son and realizes the importance of taking care of children who share the same. Please help me welcome founder and CEO of ThriveKids, Miss Evelyn Roth.
Hi.
Evelyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Okay, ThriveKids, what is ThriveKids?
ThriveKids is an amazing organization that is founded on the basis of neurodiversity. So kids with any exceptionality are welcome, and also neurotypical kids are welcome. And we've got everything from after-school programs to camps to basically selling our curriculum as well. So we teach parents and children, as well as we do workshops for schools. So we're also a TDSB partner and a partner with many different schools all over Ontario.
So children will go from the school that they're going to over to your institution?
Exactly. So they may come after school or on a weekend, or they'll come for a camp or a PA day. So we have lots of different programs available.
Oh, it's not a regular school where you go every day?
It will be. So we have developed a school curriculum, and the concept is to raise some funds as a nonprofit to be able to open our school, which has already been approved by the ministry as a private school as well. So that's something we're under works with.
With ThriveKids, you have three main focus. What are they?
So our tagline, which is fit, focused, and fearless, is a really great place to start. So on the fit side, we really believe that the body helps children to be able to focus. And through exercise, not just any exercise, but extreme exercise, the body is then released and allows children to engage in learning. So after we take the kids through multiple circuits, we exercise them very efficiently, we then teach them something new, and then we get into the focus piece. A lot of kids today have a difficulty with what's called executive function, so being able to focus on their task is difficult for them. Technology plays a small part in that.
Definitely, it does, yeah.
So, I mean, with my 10-year-old, after he's at exercise, it exhausts him of all the adrenaline, and it enables him to be able to focus. And then we teach him something new, a new skill. So it's usually STEAM related. So science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And we pick a few of those and we teach that to them after the exercise. And then the last piece is fearless. We teach them to be independent. We give them the skills to be, the social skills to be a little bit more independent in their own lives as well.
How do you find them performing after receiving all three focus?
Excellent. And we hear that over time in the schools, they're also behaving differently. They're more focused as well.
So I understand you have a new curriculum.
Yes.
How does that work?
So what's really amazing about kids in school today is that they are basically asked to sit down at a desk and focus all day long. Maybe twice a week they have exercise to some capacity, and that's pretty much about it. So with our curriculum, we've developed is sort of exercise combined with learning, combined with mindfulness, relaxation, anxiety relief. These are all topics that are happening in the schools today. So we've developed the system where every hour or so, they're getting up out of their desks, they're exercising, they're moving, and then as a result, they are going to then be able to learn and focus and engage a lot better in what they're learning. So
each child is coming to your institution twice per week or 5 days per week?
Any amount of time. So they can come 1 to 5 days per week, and they can come during the day once the school is up and running, but currently it's after school and on weekends.
What are the success stories? What are the feedback you're getting from parents as to the development of their children after coming to you?
They are saying that this is unbelievably, they're very grateful, and that it's very useful for them. And even if they're just coming part-time, they'll go back to school and they'll see incredible changes, because the kids will not only learn that this is part of their daily regime and that they need to be able to incorporate exercise into what they do, but then they'll start doing it themselves independently. So the parents are very grateful for that.
So it's really working. So it would be important for you to take it to other provinces, other communities. Have you taken a step forward to doing anything like that?
That is a great question. That's exactly what we're doing. So now we want to be able to allow schools to leverage our program all across North America. So we're developing what's called an LMS, Learning Management System, so that people can, at all schools, they can purchase our system and be able to leverage that to customize learning for kids today, because there are so many issues and challenges with kids with neurodiversity, such as ADHD and autism, anxiety, so many different things, unfortunately. And you'll always hear that, oh, it's only 5% of the kids, but the truth is that all of these challenges need to be overcome. And it's really as simple as engagement and exercise and a combination of these things to be able to help them to learn better. But most of them are gifted. There's a lot of smart kids out there. They just happen to have small neurodiversities.
One of the things I was thinking as you said that was that the parents would be a good place to start, because if their children have been through the institution, it worked for them, then they're the ones to spread the word.
For sure.
Is that happening?
Absolutely. There's a little bit of stigma, which I really would like people to sort of overcome, because I think helping our kids and preventing these issues from expanding is probably more important than anything. So I think we need to sort of get over the fact that our child may have some small disability and really focus on their abilities. So if we could do that and overcome that, I think these programs being integrated in all schools would be certainly more helpful than what we're doing now.
Do you find parents pulling back, thinking he has what he has?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes culturally, depending on the culture. People tend to sort of negate that as a possibility and just keep pushing through, which is great. But then kids also need to recognize, you know what, it's okay to overcome disability. Everybody's slightly different. No one is the same.
So you need to build on that and try to find strategies. How do you deal with situations like that when it appears?
I always say my business was built through 1-hour conversations with usually mom or dad. So it's really 1-hour conversations and building a foundation with that family to be able to recognize that, you know, it's okay, we're a safe place, we're a place where your kids are going to learn, and actually they'll be able to build on these independent skills all the way through university and beyond.
How does it make you feel though? You started this and it's really working out. How do you feel about that?
It's heartwarming. It's the most important thing that I've done in my entire life. And I left a corporate job because I was advocating for my son, and I realized how important his childhood and his feeling confident in life and not feeling bullied by not only children but by school sometimes is really important. And so teaching not only him and his peers, but now educating teachers and administrative staff on how to be a little more sensitive. It's really sensitivity training, and I feel great about it. My son has said, please don't ever leave ThriveKids, because it has changed my life. So that, to me, is everything.
He has ever been bullied?
I want to be sensitive, but he's been bullied not by children as much, but a teacher here and there, only because there is a lack of understanding of what behavioral issues are, instead of recognizing it's impulse control, which is something a child can't manage on their own. A lot of times teachers were encouraging us to put our children on medication or to suppress something as simple as ADHD. But if there's a recognition that impulse control leads to behavioral issues, then you can deal with the behavioral issue. It's not really behavioral. It's more about being able to sit down and engage your child. My son loves Legos, or loved Legos when he was younger. So let's find something that stimulates them. He had a fabulous principal who sat down and built a castle with him. That sort of dissuaded him from acting out in class and behavioral challenges. So there's always a solution. So our curriculum is really based on that. It's on plan A, B, C, and D, because we have to customize to our children's talents and their abilities as well.
How did you handle it when your child got bullied, even for a short period? How did you handle that?
I've been a single mother. So it's been very challenging. To this day, once or twice a year, I still get a phone call from, the school saying your child's having a behavioral issue. And I thought, okay, so now what I do is I look at it's like when you have a baby, what are all the things my child might need because they can't communicate with me? Your child, even as a 10-year-old with ADHD, can't communicate when they're in a rage or they're upset.
Right.
So I just start to look at, did he have food? Did he have sleep? Is he being asked questions in a condescending way because he's very intelligent? What are all the things that could could have happened, and I manage it that way, and I advocate for my son, which is what I think we all should do as parents.
And I think you do a good thing. Do you have any advice for parents out there who haven't taken the step to get help for their children?
I think that's great. Well, I mean, we're having a lot of cutbacks all over the place, all over North America in terms of programs, right? So I think, our program's very inexpensive, but I think the best thing is to try to give your child independence. Tell them that, sort of competition is not a negative thing. Learning about what the real world is going to be about and not overprotecting is really good, but also look into everything you can to help them, because they're actually underneath those behavioral challenges that the school will tell you is a very bright little light, and don't put that light out. Just keep that light going and just encourage. School isn't everything. Do something outside of school. Do programs outside of school that encourage their creativity and their intelligence.
Thanks for sharing. That was very informative. Keep watching. It's time for a break. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back. My next guest is the director of Hope Coalition, and he had his struggles with addiction. I'm happy to introduce Mr. Daniel Cullen.
Hi.
Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thank you. How are you?
So I'm good, thanks. You've had your struggles with addiction, and you often gave your testimony and try to encourage others. How was it for you going through addiction?
The 25 years of addiction, I didn't think of it as being an addiction. I just thought of it as being the way I survived. Whatever drug I could put in my body, I used it to survive the challenges I was facing, or to bury the challenges I was facing on the inside. Dealing with addiction is like, it's a never-ending battle of dealing with the urges and the desires to use your addiction, and then finding the mindset to overcome those urges and find a new direction for yourself.
What drove you to that path, though?
To my addictions?
Yeah.
When I was a youth at risk when I was 12, 13, 14, 15, and so at about 13 or 14, I adventured with LSD, acid, and I did 5 hits, and at one time that was a lot, and it was just something I liked, and so I'd run away from home and do addictions or do drugs and smoke weed.
But then you were young. How did you get your hands on that?
Street life.
Oh.
Youth at risk. Youth at risk know how to find their needs, and drugs aren't hard to find when you know how to look for them.
Right. So you go about it.
Yeah.
Anyone in specific you'd like to share and
no,
tell?
I did whatever was put in front of me, and I was a very heavy drinker, and whatever drug was given to me in my early years, my early teens and 20s, I just put in my body and let it do what it would do. The whole idea of my drug addiction back then was to bury the stuff that was going on in my head, to hide the guilt and the shame, to hide the anger and the self-loathing and all the other things that I had and where I was dealing with. I dealt with it under addiction. The higher I was, the less I had to deal with the problem.
Where were your parents in all of this? No one you could reach out to?
My parents were the greatest. I had some really, really good parents. My mother and my father were in there. I was just had no sense of self or self-worth or self-appreciation, so they got tired of my running away. At 16, they said I could be on my own, and at 16, my drug addiction exploded.
Was there anything around you that's tangible you could hold on to instead of going to drugs? No youth groups?
No. I dealt with, I was reclusive. I didn't like people. From 16 on 17, I loathed myself and I loathed people, so I had no desire to find anything else but drugs.
So no counseling and no medical help, you just went through it all by yourself. How was it? What was it like?
To come out of
What
addiction?
was your state of mind? Yeah.
My state of mind when I started, I was written off to long-term institutionalization with little hope of recovery. That was the base I was left at. And I started from that point, and I gave myself a new reference point, or a point that said things got to change. If I don't change them, nothing will change. And I set a path for myself, a focus for myself. I gave myself a reference point, And then from the reference point, I just moved forward and started to build a new reality for myself, which came when I found a hope that was bigger than the challenge I faced.
And now you're the director of the Hope Coalition.
Right.
What does HOPE stands for?
Heroes offering pathways of empowerment. So a hero would be a person, any person that is a peer or who has gone through a challenge of addiction, a challenge of mental health, a challenge of homelessness. That person that has found strength in themselves to move themselves forward and supports to move themselves forward is a hero. The offering or just being willing to connect and meet people where they're at with the issues that they have, and from that connection or that linking together, you find an ability to find pathways that empower that person. So it's open discussion, it's listening to understand, speaking to be understood. And from that point, you build capacity and you build relationships, and relationships you empower the other person to move themselves forward, just like I'd like to do for myself.
So HOPE you created on your own. How has it been received? You do talks to the community, right?
Yeah, I do talks to the community, but I also, the HOPE Coalition, I supervise nursing students from York University, Durham College. I have social work students from Durham College. I've been with York University as a nursing preceptor for 10 years. It's been very well received. My organization's been awarded a couple of awards for the work that it's done.
That's good.
I'm in the region of Durham. The HOPE Coalition is very much involved in the decisions and the being made for the homeless and the poor in Durham region. I'm a co-chair with a regional chair, Rick Kerr, a regional chairman, a regional chair, or regional counselor. I am the co-chair with him in an organization or a group called the GAP Committee. Yeah, I'm on a bunch of committees.
That's
very
good.
well
You've
received.
gone from being addicted to now leading your community.
Yeah.
What are some of the success stories you've had from people who you've spoken to?
I've seen people, because I pony up beside them or I walk with them. I don't just say that's the way to go. I'd rather one walk with me than merely show the way, right? So I walk with as a peer, as a support, as an empower. And I've seen people, their whole lives have changed. And they've told me that themselves. I've seen one guy, when I first met him, his anger was so high that we were going to fight. And now he, on his own empowered choice over the years that we've worked together, has got himself into counseling and support and is working on his addiction. Other success stories where people have gone back to school and they're just willing, because you step up and walk with them, they're willing to make the changes. And when they see the example of the changes that I've made, they see that I'm not just talking out of the side of my mouth. I'm talking from the voice of experience.
I guess, yes, your testimony will help them to heal.
Yeah.
How does the support work when you support someone who's going through that?
When I see a person, when I'm dealing with a person, I don't look at the challenges that surround them or the peripheral stuff, I call it, but I see the potential that's in that person, and I work towards that potential I see in the person. I'm recovery-based rather than medical-based, and when I say, I emphasize your strengths rather than your weaknesses, and what you can do rather than what you can't do. And I put up with your nonsense, I put up with your foolishness, I put up with the maladjusted behavior patterns that everybody seems to have when they're coming out of addiction or they've been long-term street life, and I just work with them.
Because you have been there, so you know what it's like to be in their shoes.
From 1978 to 2004, I was a chronic homeless man. I lived all over Canada, on over 70 different communities through Canada and the United States, on the streets, and I was written off. Wow.
We'll take a break. We have lots coming up. Stay with us, don't go away. Welcome back. We're speaking with Daniel Cullen on the topic of addiction. So Daniel, with the legalization of marijuana now in society, that's a big one, how do you see that interferes or ties in with addiction or more addiction in society?
That's a good question. Thank you, I guess. I look at marijuana as being an herb that has its seed in this, and it grows on every continent across around the world. Every continent has marijuana on it somewhere. The history of marijuana, it's been a long, drawn-out history of use of cannabis throughout history. But when you use marijuana to hide anything, when you use anything to hide something, and with the use of it determines how well you do or won't do. That's an addiction. Marijuana being legalized, there's going to be a lot of people that try it and adventure with it. Some people will turn into, it'll be an addiction for them, but there's people that use medical marijuana. There are people that have mental and emotional challenges that nothing works except smoking marijuana. So it's if you smoke marijuana and you're dependent on it every day because it helps you function mentally and emotionally, or whether you're on psychotropics to handle it mentally or emotionally, is that an addiction, right? Some people just don't need marijuana, don't need any kind of drugs, and they just use it, and it becomes a habit that overpowers them, and their life builds around the smoking of marijuana. Then it's an addiction problem.
So it can become an addiction, even though it's legal. It's legal. It's not created by man. It's God.
It's a seed-bearing plant that has seed in itself. Right. So it's something that we've learned to cultivate, and then in the cultivating of it, you create the potency of it. But if a person sits down and drinks one glass of wine a night, that's their comfort. If a person goes home and smokes one joint a day, that's their comfort. Maybe that's their relaxation. But a person who drinks a case of beer every night, and the next night, and the next night, they have a drinking problem. If a person smokes 2 ounces a month, or an ounce a week, or whatever they smoke, and it's a controlling habit pattern, then it's an addiction. So it's a leisure and addiction. It's the amount of how you use it and how you put it to use.
Oftentimes, there are sites set up for people who have addiction. Rather than feeding the drug to them, do you think there should be another way of taking them off of it, giving them a different type of therapy?
Harm reduction is the best therapy, and harm reduction is a person. It's a safe place where I don't know. Drugs is not anything. Anytime you use a drug to nullify a problem, it's a problem. When you're talking about sites for people to get off drugs, you're talking about the opioid sites and stuff.
Whatever they're on, because I'm thinking they're on it, they're addicted. Yeah. Something drove them to that point.
A lot of times people are driven to an addiction because they have inner challenges. There are 1 in 8 children are sexually assaulted before the age of 18. So where 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 4 boys is the ratio of sexual assault before the age of 18. That's a huge dynamic of people, and the addictions that come out of sexual assault are high, right? So you want to help a person deal with their challenges, or give them a hope that's bigger than the challenge they face. And you don't do that by saying you're wrong and you got to stop and don't do it, and you just come up beside that person and work with them, and eventually they'll find it in themselves to say, you know what, I don't need this anymore. And once I've decided I don't want it anymore, then the process changes and I change. But if I tell them they need to change, or they just say they have to change to make another person happy, their addictions won't change.
That's what I was about to ask you, because after having dealt with it for so many years, you had the courage to pull away. How does it make you feel when you look back, seeing where you're coming from?
When I look back over it all, I'm grateful, because 18 years ago, I said, one of these days, I'm going to sit at a city or regional or provincial level somewhere and affect change to the issues of addiction and homelessness. And now, 18 years later, I am sitting at a position where the voice of the voiceless is heard at a regional level and at a city level, and the effects that are being made in people's lives because of that vision of idea that you can't ask a drunk how to stay sober, and you can't ask a person who's never been in an addict how to fix their challenges, right? So it makes me feel pretty.
So you voiced your opinion to people who are in position who can. Yes. Do you see change coming?
Huge change. I see changes. I see more in the region I'm in. A lot more people are going to end up being homeless, but or homeless and then among addictions. But there's also at the other end, there are people coming away from addictions and moving away from addictions and finding a hope that's bigger than the challenge they face. And so it's challenging.
Any success stories you've encountered from people who have been off, just like yourself?
Yeah, I have several success stories. I have a lot of people that tell me that their lives have changed because of what I did, and
How does that make you feel?
I take it as a part of what I do, and it feels good. But I've seen too many people die, and I've seen enough people change their lives. I feel absolutely thrilled that I can do it, because they told me I'd be in an institution for the rest of my life with little hope of recovery, and now I run an institution, right? So I'm a leader in the community. So if I can pull my socks up, or I shouldn't say that, if I can find the courage to make the changes that need to make change, when I find somebody that's willing to make the changes and I see them make the changes, I get hugs all the time. I'm not a hugging person, but there are people that just walk up to me and will give me the hug, and they tell me that their lives have changed because I was able to walk with them. I had one student tell me that her attitude was one thing, but after she listened to my explanation and watched me work with people and saw how those people responded to how I was working with them and the way I do my business, she said her compliments was, "I have so much to learn. I have so much to learn from me." So it makes me feel good, but I don't put any weight on it. I beat myself up more because I always think there can be more. I can do more. I can find better ways to do it. I can find greater ways to do it. I can change more people's lives. I've been in Peel, and now I'm in Durham.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
What's a typical day like dealing with people with issues and helping them to overcome?
I meet them where they're at, and I don't judge them for anything. So I meet people at drop-in centers. I meet people at the food bank. New Life Neighborhood Centers with the food bank. I'm on the board of directors at that food bank, and I work with the community on a regular basis. I hold workshops, and the workshops I hold, people are making the changes in their lives, and I run the GAP committee as a part of a team, and we've got 50 people on the GAP committee, or at least 50 people in the GAP committee, and those are people with lived experience, and they're seeing the effects taking place, and things are changing, and they're being empowered to make changes, and
You're pretty busy. You're balancing many hats.
I have.
How
yes.
do you cope with living regularly and having to attend to people who are in need?
What do you mean living regularly?
Your regular lifestyle.
I don't have much of a regular lifestyle. I have my time when I just self-care, but this is what I do. This is what I took a really bad experience of those years I was on the streets, and 18 years ago I turned it around, and I've done enough. It's just what I eat, live, and breathe what I do. And so, yeah, I've got a lot of hats to balance, but they all focus towards one goal, and that's changing people's lives, affecting change in people's lives.
So then I was thinking, addiction probably isn't a good thing, but having gone there, and probably you shouldn't have, you've gone there for a reason, because now you're changing lives.
Yeah. You take a mess and make it a message.
How does it make you feel, though?
Watching things unfold. I saw this happening 18 years ago. Where I am now and what I'm doing now, I was envisioned in my mind 18 years ago. To see it unfold, I kind of sit back and go, whoa, I'm humbled. And I'm grateful that I can do it, and I don't stop.
Okay, it's nice to be humble. And that's it for today's show. Thank you for watching. Please join us again next time for coffee and great conversation. Bye.